1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in they Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters gon' move, whatever click you choose.
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. Yeah, that's me gassing on that intro song. And if you're interested in getting that, hit me up on my email, 16tolifemusic@gmail.com, and I will give you the information on how to cop it. Now, let's get right into today's video. So, yes, I'm going to be talking about today Carmelo Anthony, the young man who was recently convicted of taking the life of Austin Metcalf a while back in Texas, right? And so this, in my opinion, this situation right here just shows once again how greatly divided the country is on race, right? And I think a lot of times when you see situations like this, historically, since minorities have always got the short end of the stick in the legal system, right? Whether they are the person being charged with the crime or the person who a crime has happened to and they are trying to get justice through the courts, they often get the short end of the stick. And so when situations like this come up, it divides the country. I think when situations like this happen to white people, they get extremely mad because, let's keep it 100, they are not used to being victimized and not getting some form of justice in the court system. And so this is why when you have situations like this, it divides the country. And you see on these more bigger popular channels that cover this type of stuff, you see a lot of polarizing comments and comments on different sides of the spectrum in the comment section, right? Because of the anger it brings out. But before I get into this situation, right, let me show you guys what I said, my thoughts on the outcome of this situation when it happened originally back however many months ago that it was. So he wants to take it upon himself to physically put his hands on Karmelo. Then Karmelo pulled the knife out, stabbed him. Austin ended up passing away. All that honestly is neither here nor there in the eyes of the law. So basically, in my opinion, what this case is going to come down to is the laws regarding self-defense out there in Texas. So I looked up some stuff, and I think it was Texas Penal Code 9.32, right? And so basically, I'm going to put it up on the screen for you guys so you can read it yourself, right? And I'm going to read what I believe applies to the situation in this case, right? So basically, what it says is a person is justified in using deadly force against another if the actor would be justified in using force against the other under section 9.31. And that section is when and to the degree the actor reasonably believes the deadly force is immediately necessary. And paragraph 2 says when and to the degree the actor reasonably believes the deadly force is immediately necessary. So in my opinion, that's going to be key right there, right? So in the eyes of the law, stabbing someone just because they pushed you is not the appropriate amount of force, right? So if more evidence or more, because I'm hearing people talk about it's a certain type of video or something they may have, but if things like that don't come into play, I definitely believe that Karmelo was going to be fighting an uphill battle because the law is pretty simplistic, right? And it's not going to allow people to feel they have the right to pull out a weapon, whether that be a knife or a gun, and take the life of another individual simply because that person pushed you. So in other words, you have to use you can defend yourself with the appropriate amount of force that is being used against you. So basically, Carmelo Anthony could have pushed that dude back. He could have possibly even hit the dude with his fist, but take his life, that's going to be a hard self-defense case for that guy to prove, And I definitely believe that you may have some people who think or may want to think that due to the fact that I am of the same race as Carmelo Anthony, I'm going to come with a wild legal theory or whatever, right? And I definitely support the brother, right? So I could get up here, make a video, and due to the fact that I'm trying to support Carmelo Anthony, give you guys a whole bunch of hogwash or mumbo jumbo. But to be honest, if I did that, it's still not going to change the fact of the matter and the reality of what the situation is from a legal aspect. So,
right? A lot of people I assume, who may have not known me, right? They may have expected I would be on the side of Carmelo Anthony, or at least that my opinions and my beliefs on what was going to happen would be favorable in relation to Carmelo Anthony, because honestly, a lot of people let situations like this, they let their bias or their racism or their anger or their dislike influence or flat out dictate their opinions on certain situations, right? You see, I said there that, man, I believed due to the way the law is written, he was fighting a uphill battle, right? I did not think that he had a chance of winning his case on the basis of self-defense. So, sometimes, just being locked up and being around individuals and studying some type of, criminal cases and looking at certain things, sometimes you do see situations where you think, okay, man, that guy is done and he is found not guilty, right? But if I was a betting man, I would have bet that Carmelo Anthony was going to be found guilty, simply because the way the law is written, you're not allowed to pull out a knife and stab someone simply because they pushed you. And once again, like I said, man, I know, you have individuals who will report on things the way they would like them to be or what they want to happen. And so they look at things, they twist things, they try to make a logic that they try to, I guess, speak into fruition, a logic like that they would like to happen instead of looking at the situation clearly. And that's when things get, in my opinion, all messed up or whatever. To my understanding, in the short recess that I did on this conviction, the jurors came back with a guilty verdict after 2.5 hours of deliberation, which is extremely, extremely fast. He had an all-white jury, and the law was clear cut, right? And to be honest, some of those jurors may have went in there looking, hoping, and already had their hearts set on finding him guilty, right? But the way that the law was written up, that it wasn't really any other choice, right? And the reason, to my understanding, they found him guilty is because they felt that the amount of force Carmelo Anthony used was not legally justified within the law, right? So for those who are upset with the opinion, or for those who are upset with the verdict, let's look at things in a different manner, right? Imagine, for whatever reason, your mother, your sister, someone who you love, someone who, is dear to you, is sitting on a bench, and for whatever reason, or no, let's do it like this. Imagine that somebody else is sitting on a bench, and your mother, your brother, your father, or whoever, for whatever reason, come up and tell that dude he has to leave, and they push the dude, simply push the dude. The dude then stands up and stabs your mother or your father or whoever to death. Wouldn't you want justice? I mean, wouldn't you, feel that the dude should be found guilty, right? Because I trip on how sometimes, people will apply, all people, not just black people, all people, white people, Hispanic people, people will apply a different type of logic when they are the ones that's involved in the situation, right? But if it's somebody else, they'll have the right logic. But when it's someone that they love or something that is near to them, then they use a different type of perspective and fail to see the situation clearly, right? And in my opinion, that's what happened to some individuals who happen to be the same race that Carmelo Anthony was. They was viewing the situation with an anger in their heart, with a hurt in their heart, from seeing years and years and years of injustice in the justice system. So then after a while, when stuff like that happens, and honestly, I'm keeping 100 right here. A lot of white people can't relate because they are not treated like that. They are not treated like that in the justice system. So after a period of time, when there is so much injustice, then you have individuals who will start rooting for the race instead of rooting for a fair outcome. As I said earlier, long throughout the history of the United States, you have had minorities, not just blacks. All minorities get treated unfairly, unfair rulings from the inception of the country, right? And so when you have this type of understanding of the legal system, of the historical circumstances that happen in relation to court and policing, then of course individuals are going to get mad, right? But unfortunately, once again, you cannot use force that is not warranted, right? I learned that long time ago. I was in Montana and a girl got to talking crazy to me, right? Not knowing that I was a class clown. I started telling jokes. We was at the park telling jokes, well, I won't say a girl, I'll say a young woman, because she was probably in her 20s, right? And so I'm telling jokes on her now. Everybody's laughing. She becomes angry and pulls out a pair of cuticle scissors and literally stabs me in the head, right? Once I realize I'm stabbed and bleeding, I put some lefts and rights on her. My homeboy OZ, rest in peace, he punched her, knocked her down, and then I began to kick her in the face. And she went and told the police. Police called me up there or whatever, and the police basically explained to me that once I neutralized the threat, once she was on the ground and I began to kick her in the face, that was where the criminal aspect of the case came in, because she was no longer a threat to me. Had she may have had the weapon in her hand and then I'm fighting her and this and that, then that's okay. But once she fell on the ground and I was kicking her in the face out of anger, that's what turned it into a criminal case. And in his opinion, criminal charges was going to be filed against me for that. I never was charged with that case criminally, right? But I mean, let's use logic. It makes sense. You cannot, this country is not going to allow basically people to use whatever justice they feel is necessary, right? And so if you disagree with that, you probably have to do either of two things. You have to either try to get the laws changed or you have to leave the United States, because then, so say you in Walmart, somebody comes and intentionally, you see it's intentional, they take their shopping cart and crash it into your shopping cart. Then are you then allowed to pull out a gun and shoot this dude 6 or 7 times because he did the bumper car thing with his shopping cart? And so that's why they have laws like that that are in place that, govern certain type of situations like this in what would be common sense. Once again, if Carmelo had just stood up and punched that dude in the face, got him in a headlock, gave him some lefts and rights, all that would have been okay possibly. And he definitely wouldn't have been charged with a murder. But to pull a weapon out and then stab the dude and take his life is where of course, the murder charges came into play, man. So it's a very unfortunate situation for both families. For first and foremost, the Metcalf family. Who knows why the young dude even approached Carmelo Anthony and told him he had to leave. Maybe he was doing too much. Maybe he was trying to be, a tough guy or a superhero, right? But once again, Carmelo feeling that he had to write because of a push to take this dude's life is unfortunately what eventually led to him being convicted. Now, Texas is that's a state that get him out the way and don't play, especially with the death penalty and all other type of stuff. So I didn't know that they find you guilty the same day and then sentence you to prison. So of course we know by now he was sentenced to 35 years. According to the information that I did in trying to figure out how much actual time he may have to do before he's eligible for parole, I saw 17 and a half years, right? So that is a nice chunk of his life. I believe he's either 18, I believe maybe 19 by now. I'm not 100% sure, but either or, that is a lot of time, 17 years to do, and that's considering he stays out of the way and doesn't get any more time added to his sentence, right? And so that's an unfortunate situation, but that is basically what he got himself caught into by making that decision to pull that knife out and stab Austin Metcalf, right? So it has nothing to do whether I'm loyal to black people and so on and so forth, man. Actually, I'm gonna try to leave a link to that entire video that I did, right? Because I felt that I did a pretty decent job in explaining why, and I felt it was a fair job on why you have so many black people rooting for Carmelo Anthony to be found not guilty, right? And so I'm gonna try to leave a link to that video that I did 6-7 months ago, or however long it was when this case originally hit the national news and stuff, right? But yeah, unfortunately, Carmelo Anthony has been found guilty. He's headed to prison at least for the next 17 and a half years, possibly even longer. I seen that he has already filed a notice saying that he will appeal his case, which is just standard stuff. Anytime, the majority of the time an individual is sentenced to a long amount of time by way of jury trial, he in turn files a notice of appeal, putting the courts on notice that he will be appealing his conviction, man. So anyway, you already know what time it is, man. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.